वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनौ वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनौ देवकी परमानन्दौ देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरु कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुम्.
नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं दैवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयम् उदीरयेत्. I place my humble salutations at the lotus feet of Sri Vedavyasa, by whose grace today we are able to go and dwell into the rasa of the Mahabharata, the Bhagavad Gita and the Bhagavata. Till now we had detailedly dwelled into the problems that Arjuna is facing and his dilemmas. He has almost convinced us that this war should not be fought. So let us go into his last word before he seeks advice from the Paramatman. Arjuna says, Nahi prapashyami mamapanudyad yachhokamuchhoshanamindriyanam avapya bhumavasapatnamridham rajyam suranam api chadhipatyam. Nahi prapashyami mamapanudyad yachhokamuchhoshanam indriyanam avapya bhumavasapatnamridham rajyam suranam api chadhipatyam. Let us analyze the last line first. Rajyam suranam api chadhipatyam. Sura means devata. Rajyam suranam api chadhipatyam. I would not want the loka of the devatas as a return for what I am about to do. I would not assume that I deserve the loka of the devatas for what I am about to do. Avapya bhuma vasapatnam riddham. Let alone a piece of land on earth. I would not even want the devata loka as a return for this battle. Nahi prapashyami mamapanudyat yachokam choshanam indriyanam. I cannot perceive or fight this battle which is drying up my senses. We all know what this is. We all have felt this at a point of time when we have a problem, when we are suddenly afraid, when we suddenly have a problem. The first thing that happens is our mouth dries up. Fear engulfs our gut first, and grief blocks your throat. So these are something which happens to us in a very common situation. Assume we are writing an exam and you have 20 marks more to write. Only 10 minutes left. You need 15. You start sweating. Your gut holds up. There is a rush of adrenaline. All these are very normal, and that is what is happening to Arjuna too, which he refers to as drying up of the senses. But what is more important is to observe Arjuna's words from the past few shlokas. Or in this context, they are actually talking to each other. They are shlokas for us, but it is conversational for Arjuna and Krishna. So Arjuna is continuously repeating his problems to Sri Krishna. This is again not something new for humans. We tend to focus too much on the problem that we don't move into the thought of the solution. So this is the the object-wise explanation of what is happening, there is failure involved here, failure to prevent the battle. The wise immediately seek the solution to the failure, to the next step. The unwise keep dwelling on the cause of failure. That is the only difference in dealing with failures. Wise people easily move on to the solution. Unwise people keep dwelling on the cause of failure. And when a guru enters our life, the word guru is composed of two letters, where gu means darkness, andhakara, and ru means someone who removes that andhakara, who removes that darkness from our life. In the most famous Guru Stotra, it is said, Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha, which starts with Ajnana Timirandhasya. So when we have Ajnana, ignorance, a Guru is a person who opens up our eyes, not our regular eyes, our eye of knowledge, by wiping away this ignorance. That's why it is Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena. Chakshu is eyes, Unmilitam means open. And to that Guru we all bow down. So the presence of a Guru in one's life is very important for all humans, because none of us can boast of being wise all the time. There may be some exceptional people who possess the ability to be wise to all situations, like Sri Krishna. But even his wisdom has come through the Guru Parampara, like of great gurus like Sandipani. And we must realize and understand that great people like Sri Srinivasa Ramanujan or Sri C.V. Raman or Albert Einstein in any context have got their primary education through a teacher. And after that they built on their knowledge, and that is what wise people do. But in the beginning, everyone starts unwise and everyone needs a guru to go into the solution of their problem. Else he will continuously be dwelling on the cause and trying to, understand the problem repeatedly, and that is a waste of time. We need to move into the solution as fast as possible to conquer what is stopping us. So Sanjaya, who has been observing all this, who has been narrating it to the blind king Dhritarashtra, he says, Evamuktvā hrishikesham gudakeshah parantapam nayotsya iti govindam uktva tushnim babhuvaham. Evam uktva hrishikesham. Rishikesha is, as we know, Sri Krishna himself. So having told all these to Rishikesha, a new adjective is used for Arjuna here. Gudakeshaha Parantapa. Gudakesha is a person who has extreme control over one's sleep. The only person who had been given the title of Gudakesha before Arjuna was Lakshmana in the Ramayana because of his extreme ability to control sleep. Gudakesha essentially means consciousness in sleep, which means if you want to fall asleep this moment, you should be able to, and if you want to wake up 5 minutes later, you should be able to do it very consciously, not with the help of an alarm or an external source, but with the help of your own internal mind. So that was the ability of Arjuna. And we may all be skilled at sleeping, pretty quickly, but waking up is another really hard department where we all, probably all of us, have difficulties in managing. So Arjuna was such a skilled person. These are some rarely known abilities of Arjuna because his archerial skills overshadow these abilities. We often forget how skilled Arjuna was because of the one incident of Ekalavya that happened. We tend to ignore his expertise in archery and his various other gunas because of that one incident, and that does not reflect very well on us. So being a Gudakesha is something which is extremely rare and needs a lot of meditation, lot of control over one's senses, and Arjuna is skilled enough to have that ability. Nayotsya is what he says. He tells Govinda that he does not want to fight. I will not fight. I cannot fight. And after that, Uktva Tushnim Babhuvaha. Tushnim is silence. After saying these words to Sri Krishna, he falls into silence. Sanjaya dictates this to Dhritarashtra. Tamuvacha Hrishikeshaha Prahasanniva Bharata Senayor Madhye Vishedantam Idam Vachaha. We all know where they are right now, in between the two senas, because Arjuna wanted to see both the sides. He asks Sri Krishna, Senayor Madhye Ratham Sthapaya Mechyuta. Please station the chariot between the two armies, O Krishna. And Hrishikesha is now smiling at Arjuna, just like how a teacher smiles at his student or her student when the student finds a problem very difficult, because the teacher is now about to teach the student. Vishedantam idam vachaha. He is going to talk to the saddened Arjuna. What does he say? Shri Bhagavanuvacha Ashocyananvashocastvam Prajnavadamscha bhashase Gatasumscha Nanushocanti panditaha Natvevaham jatu nasam Natvam neme janadhipam Nachaiva na bhavishyamaha Sarve vayamatah param. O Arjuna, Ashocyan anvashocastvam. You worry about things which are futile. Prajnavadamscha bhashase. Yet you talk like one who has lot of knowledge. Gatasuna gatasumscha nanushocanti panditaha. Gatasuna gatasumscha. Panditaha, wise people. Pandita does not mean knowledged. Pandita means wise. Pandita means one who can apply what they know. If you know a million things about a about a car's engine, and you can't even remove a screw, you are no Pandita. But if you know 5 things about an engine, but you can remove the bonnet and work inside and solve a problem, then you are a Pandita. So we can relate that to what is happening here. Arjuna seems to know a lot of things, but is not able to apply anything to his life. Much like us. We would have seen people in our life talk things like, hey, see what Upanishads say. We must be balanced all the time. But we fail to be balanced when it is most needed. So Sri Krishna says, Gatasuna gatasumscha. What has gone and what is about to come. Both of these are not in our control. And both of these are things which wise people don't worry about. They look into what you have at hand in the present and try to influence the situation with what they know. This is a very logical piece of advice, but we tend to forget it all the time. A good example is, we are writing an exam, and before the exam, we keep worrying of what questions may come in the exam. And after writing the exam, we worry of what the results might be, and we start worrying whether I wrote the question properly. At no point of time is the focus on the current situation, where in the previous case, it had to be on preparation. And in the later case, it had to be on the next work that we have and not on an event that has already happened. But we fail in both cases when the examination is about to happen, when an interview is about to happen. Our focus continues to remain on what if the questions are hard? What if I don't perform properly? It is never on, am I preparing perfectly? Is my preparation up to date? Do I have to study something else? Do I have to look into some topics? If this is our way of thinking, it changes the approach of the examination or any event in life. As a college student, I can relate to the examination, and I hope all, all the viewers might have gone through such a situation in their life at a point of time. Also, when the examination is over, some of us tend to contemplate on the examination a bit too much. We look at the question paper repeatedly and start getting doubts whether we wrote the answer properly or not. Again, a wise man would not do this because this is something which you cannot influence. If you want to know the answer to something which you didn't write properly, that is wise. But if you repeatedly keep scanning the question paper and try to remember whether you wrote it properly, whether you'll get marks for that, what the results might be, all these are things which are not related to the present moment and are a waste of time. Yet we continue doing this despite knowing that we cannot influence it. Do people who worry about the result not know that worrying will not help? Obviously they know, but they need someone to tell them repeatedly so that they can realize it. Most of the things in the world are things we already know, but we need people to remind us constantly so that we continue to practice it. नत्वेवाहं जातुनासं नत्वं नेमे जनाधिपा न चैव न भविष्यामः सर्वे वयमतः परम्. A very, very interesting relation for this shloka to Socrates, the philosopher from Athens in Greece, is when Socrates, was walking in Athens, a man came running and he collided into Socrates. Socrates was smiling because Socrates is a wise man. He knows that this collision is not in his control, nor is it in the control of the other person. It happened as an accident. But the other man was not as wise as Socrates. He got angry and said, "Who are you, man, walking like this in the middle of the street?" And Socrates very wisely says, "Who am I? I have been trying to answer this question for a lot of years myself." So that gives us an idea of how deeply the Greek history and our history may be linked. Natvevaham jatu nasam, natvam neme janadhipa, na chaiva na bhavishyama. Oh Arjuna, do you know that there was never a time when we didn't exist? There is never a time where we don't continue to exist, and there will never be a time when we cease to exist. We will always be there in the Bhuta, Vartamana and the Bhavishyat Kala. It will only be in different shariras, or it will be as moksha. But in either case, we won't cease to exist. This was very confusing for a majority of people who read this for the first time. But a lot of philosophers, especially Werner Heisenberg, who was a physicist and a chemist too, but his important research was in the atomic and the energy field, he understood this sentence as complete perfection. Yes, natvevaham jatu nasam natvam neme janadhipa na chaiva na bhavishyamaha. Yes, it makes sense. He relates it to energy, where energy neither ceases to exist, nor will it cease to exist, but it keeps changing forms which makes us feel as though it is gone. Take a battery for instance. Before charging, the energy is present as electrical energy, and when it is charged, it is present as chemical energy, and when it is being utilized, it becomes electrical again, and when the electrical is transferred to something like a light bulb, it gets transformed into light energy and heat energy, and it dissipates the environment to free space and comes back as another form of energy. In the similar fashion, our Atman never stops existing. It might have existed in some state in the previous times. Now we are currently in the body that we have taken up. And after this, the Atman will pass and go to the next body, or if our karma is completely detached, it will go into moksha. But never will the Atman cease to exist. How are new births happening? It is more and more separations from the Paramatman which is taking birth, and the cycles that are being repeated. How do we know if a population decreases? More and more Atmans are getting moksha. Very simple answer. It is just like energy, and it is fascinating that a person from a foreign nation who did not have much of an aptitude in Sanskrit learned Sanskrit, and as soon as he saw the shloka, it made complete sense to him. And a lot of us who are reading it for the first time find it difficult to understand because of the lack of physical and scientific information. But if we look at the energy approach, this makes a lot of sense. This makes a lot of sense. Sri Krishna's word is golden. Law of conservation of energy is satisfied here. So what exists inside us is a form of energy, definitely. The soul is a form of energy which powers up the entire body, we must say. If the soul moves out of the body, it is just a dead body with no use. It is like a vehicle which has all the features but without an engine. What is the use of such a vehicle? So this understanding is phenomenal, and as we go into the further shlokas, we will explore it in more detail. But for now, I leave all the viewers to dwell on this small thing where it is birth after birth after birth after moksha, and the Atman never stops ceasing, never stops existing. And that is why Panditas don't pity the dead, nor do they expect the future progeny. They focus on the present because that is the only people they can influence. With that note, with that paradox, I leave my viewers and conclude the session for today. Govindeति sada dhyanam, Govindeti sada japam, Govindeti sada dhyanam, Sada Govinda kirtanam. Swastif prajabhyah paripalayantam nyayena margena mahim mahishaah. Go brahmanebhyah shubhamastu nityam loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Kale varshatu parjanyah prithvi sasya shalini. Deshoyam kshobarahitah sajjanah santu nirbhayaah. अपुत्राः पुत्रिणः सन्तु पौत्रिणः अधनाः सधनाः सन्तु जीवन्तु शरदां शतम्. श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः. हरिः ओम्.